Bonjour once again, messieurs of the Writ. The great Gaston Crayon de Papier has returned for another sponsored advertisement and another chunk of change to give to these fine folks at the Writ.
And we really appreciate it. I certainly do anyways. Glad your opinion of me has improved over the years, especially ever since the pizza shop. I'm like a fine wine, wouldn't you say?
That is the most ridiculous statement I have ever heard in my life, Monsieur Donald. I merely wanted to reach out to all the millions of weekly listeners that reading podcast of yours gets, and show them the wondrous grandeur of my latest narrative culinary creation.
Yes, we totally get millions of listeners. We sure do.
Did you say something, Donald? Was I misinformed about the number of listeners?
No, we totally get millions of listeners. We sure do. Please keep giving us money for these advertisements. Please.
Ugh, if you insist. May I introduce listeners of this podcast, Gaston Crayon de Papier's microwavable short stories. Not everyone has the time to cook a magnificent and epic novel with cuisine de histoire. Not everyone can stuff these delicious pizzas in a single sitting. If all you want is just a taste of the great story at a more manageable length, then Gaston's microwavable short stories are for you.
But didn't your old story cooking ingredients take seconds to cook? Who doesn't have time for that?
Do you want the money or not, Monsieur Donald?
I do, you're right, sorry.
Serve these stories at parties, at book clubs, at writing workshops. Impress everyone with the power of these easily digestible short stories. From recollections of characters past to exciting tales of the present, these ingredients can help you create whatever short story you can think of and show them to the world. We provide the ingredients and ship them to you, so you can enjoy these short stories whenever the time comes.
Sounds great, Gaston. I'm sure our listeners would love to...
Sorry I'm late, Donald. I lost my pocket monster, got caught in a magical girl fight, and just barely slipped past a storm of kaiju and super mechs. You know, the standard stuff that people deal with here in Japan.
David, come on, we're in the middle of an ad here.
That is no problem, Donald. I have always greatly respected Monsieur David. His work is the prime example of literary excellence I strive for with my cuisine de histoire.
What?
Wow, really?
Oh, oui, monsieur. Come, try some of these microwavable short stories I just cooked. They were made with the personal tragedy and the Victorian era ingredients, topped with the heavy themes of the familial seasoning.
Okay, sure. Wow, that was the most moving, poignant, beautiful short story I've ever had the privilege of eating. Excellent as always, Gaston Crayon de Papier. My compliments to the chef.
Oh, merci, Monsieur David. This is exactly why I have nothing but the utmost respect for you. I think I will give all the money for this advertisement to you, David.
Really? Come on!
Thank you very much, Gaston. I will cherish your generosity always, monsieur.
The pleasure is mine, Monsieur David. To all the millions of wonderful listeners of the Writ, bon appetit! Enjoy these microwavable short stories from the great, the stupendous, the magnificent Gaston Crayon de Papier.
Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of the Writ, the show where 90% of the time is spent twitting about negative 10% of the content, leaving the remainder for 110% of it. Also, we're better than you listeners.
Somehow, that was a real mind screw, what you were just saying there. I was like, whoa, negative 10 percentiles. I'm not a math person, though.
Basically, it means that we spend so much time BSing that we have to cover 110% of the content because we somehow went negative in the remaining. Right.
Okay. All right.
Anyways,
all right, so
this is the third of our set about
yes,
outside of your main story stuffs. We talked about prologues already. We've talked about interludes already and other things. Please go listen to them.
Yes, please.
But we're on the third of our set, so we're going to go ahead and do our regular segment, What We at the Writ have writ.
Right, yes we are. And
like
guess what? I'm
honors?
first. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know why I said that so mean like. I apologize, David.
This is my life. This is every time. All right, go ahead.
For all of our skits, like I pep you up so much, and I push me down so much. So consider this payback, I guess. Like well, it's just like this last one, the one we have for this episode, the Crayon de Papier one. Like he loves you and he hates me. What?
Yeah.
I wrote that.
I think it's just that he's overly familiar with you, and I don't show up nearly as much.
What about the
I'm grateful
one
for
where
his support.
we were catching all the idea fish? You caught all of them, and I didn't even catch one.
That is true.
And what about the one we did? Wait, is it this last?
The universe.
Oh no,
the universe has a sense of justice.
Well, guys, wait till you hear the one for the next episode. For the one afterwards.
Oh no!
Let me just say it's real ranting. Okay. We'll get to that later.
Real ranting indeed. Yes.
Get excited, listeners.
Oh, that's right. We didn't have any last episode, did we?
No, we didn't. Maybe we had a few. No, we had a few.
You're
no, we had
welcome.
one. We had one. I think we had one at the beginning. So,
maybe we.
Let's see if we do none for this one,
All right,
other
anyway.
than that one. No cheap.
Well,
plug.
we just did.
Well, no cheap plug like the ding sound effects. I mean,
Ding. We'll see. Anyway, what have you read?
I've mainly just prepared for selling my books at Denver StarFest, a Comic-Con style convention where I've obtained an author booth. So,
Obtained.
yeah,
Such a big thing.
Paid for, obtained, whatever. Potato. So, basically, I'm going to be selling copies of Megazoic and the 2 sequels that are out so far to a huge crowd of nerds with posters and something, illustrations, checking out the table, and I have these little dinosaurs, a bunch of little dinosaurs I'm going to get that I don't mind people stealing. So...
Oh, that's intriguing.
Yeah, and Natasha's going to be there, my illustrator, and she's going to be present, and she will be adorning a big dinosaur costume. It's the inflatable T-Rex that you've undoubtedly seen on your Facebook feeds. So it should be great.
So when you say posters, did you actually take the illustrations and blow them up to poster size?
Yes, and I also colored them.
That's really cool.
Thanks.
So wait, you colored them?
Yeah, I colored them.
Which makes more sense
Yeah,
than
I
her
colored
coloring
them.
them, I suppose.
Yeah,
right?
I colored them through Photoshop.
So you colored them and then you blow it up. How many posters did you make them?
I only have 2, but that's okay. If you guys want to see...
well, two different...
Yeah.
Wait, 2 different styles?
No,
And
2
you
different
just create
posters.
multiple
I have one of
posters?
one dinosaur, one of another dinosaur. I don't have a lot of space on this table, so I also need a poster for how much the books are going to be costing, all that stuff. So
So you have to give them that information too.
yeah, and I have to have room for all the books on the table.
So you're not giving away these posters or selling the posters. They're just decoration.
They're just decoration to get people's interest.
Okay.
So yeah.
I mean, come on, that'd be a really cool thing to buy.
That-
That's just me. Anyway, don't worry about it.
We'll
You're
see
doing
how
your
it
thing.
goes. This
That's
is
really
not going to
cool,
be my
though.
last one of these, I'm assuming. So if people wanted that one, if a lot of people say,
yeah.
"Hey, I really want to get that," I'll be like, "Okay, I'll get them for next time." So
So how many books are you bringing with you?
I'm going to have 100, 50 of the first book, 25 of each sequel so far.
Okay, makes sense. Get them started on the first one.
Yeah, and I'm
More
going to have a
than
little
just-
thing that's
I mean,
you can buy individual books for $15, or you can buy all 3 for $30. So
a package deal.
yeah,
I was gonna say if you had the means of creating a box set, even though it's
my
not,
mom
full,
really
you
wants
could-
to do that once the final book comes out.
I was gonna say, yeah, you probably should wait for the final book to be out first.
Right.
But yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so
This is not. I'm not trying to help you plan StarFest. You're on top of it.
right.
I'm just-
Well, actually, by
I'm
the
just
time
curious.
this episode comes out, it will have already happened. It's gonna.
Oh, okay.
Because so yeah, I'll be sure to update you guys in a few episodes later about how well I did.
Exactly.
And if you hear nothing-
you got to keep listening all the way to then, listeners.
And if you hear nothing, listeners, assume it went poorly. So- okay. Nah, or I just forgot.
So how many? So StarFest. You say you're trying to sell 100 books. Is this literally all one day?
It's 3 days. 4 hours the first day and 10 hours of each of the other days to round up to a full 24 hours. So,
Wow, that's a long time to be sitting in a booth.
I'm going to be taking plenty of de-stressifying pills. Bring some lunch. And
Bring some lunch. Well, yeah, I mean, 10 hours. Holy crap. That's like you eat breakfast, you go, and you get lunch in the middle. So is there a set schedule that you're exhibiting?
yes, there is a set
certain
schedule.
time?
There is no. They have people. They have the times that authors want to be there for a certain time.
So everybody's going to be there for a total of 24 hours, but they
If
have
they
their
choose
4-hour
to.
window
Like,
on
some of them
day.
might not want to be there for the whole time. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Well, and my question, and I wasn't sure if you'd like signed up for a certain time to have the booth.
No, I mean,
somebody
you
else
pay
man
for the
it if you're not
booth.
there or whatever.
You pay for the booth, and you can use it for up to this amount of time. So if you want to get your money's worth, you're there for the whole time, basically. So
Fair enough. And that's why you're splitting it out for 3 days as opposed to.
well, no, those are
doing just,
the hours per day. So
Oh, so everybody is doing 4 hours on that one day and then 10
yes,
hours.
yes, because the first day is the Friday, so it's 5 p.m. to 9 p.m.
So it's the evening. Then.
Yeah, and then the other days are like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So
Have you practiced your signature?
yes, I've done that plenty of times for giving out books. So yeah, I have.
Good. Good.
I'm going to have
You're
my cards
ready to become
there.
a star at StarFest.
Yeah, well, I'm also going to have a little thing full of my cards that'll have links to my website, which you can get my other books and listen to this podcast. So
Exactly. Oh, great. They'll be advertising me too. No.
yes, be prepared.
Be prepared for a deluge of fan mail.
Yes, our teeth and ambitions are bared. Be prepared. Sorry.
Thank you, Scar.
No
Anyway.
problem, Mufasa. No, wait, no, Mufasa didn't hear that song. If you heard that song, it'd be a very different movie. You'd be like, "You're planning to do what?" to me.
Well, that and the allusion to the fact that you're the reason I die. It's just
You're planning to do what to me, little brother? We need a big talking to. I'm also gonna.
golly, the love, this love that I feel is so strongly like tinged with hate.
Oh, indeed. Anyways, that's what I've writ. It's not real. Again, we're stretching the definition of writting, but it's stuff helping advertise.
Well, I mean,
it's advertising by other writting. So,
yeah.
anyways, what have you writ?
And hey, I mean,
Yes.
you've been focused on that.
Yes,
so.
yes.
Yeah, I have been. I'm excited to announce
Yes.
that Starburst Season 1 is almost done.
Good job.
My co-author and I have plans for a Season 2, and because we are going to a Season 2, we need a new villain character. And so to prepare that, I've been prepping a character biography,
Nice.
and we'll introduce this guy in the next episode that I'm going to write.
Okay.
Which I want to nail down the biography before I write the episode. Of course, by the time that this airs, I'll probably be done with the entire episode because I'm really excited and the biography is just about nailed down now.
Right.
In addition to that, I've compiled some loose lyric and poetry bits that I actually have this notepad app on my phone.
Nice.
And I would literally, when I was struck with inspiration, I'd put them down. And I compiled them onto a document on the computer, so that way, heaven forbid something happens to the phone,
Right.
I can back up the document, so I can
Right.
have computerized files of them.
Right.
I had this really fun limerick about spring. I was inspired. I went on in Japan there is the annual sakura cherry blossoming time.
Nice.
And it's very short.
Okay.
The life of these.
Like, I think last time we
Sakura
talked, you wanted to go out and
buds.
look at the cherry blossoms. So.
Yes. No, it was beautiful. And while I was out walking, I was inspired to do this limerick, and I'm going to see if I can find it because it's just.
Are
a
you going to
limerick.
read it
It's
on
not too
air?
long.
Nice.
If I don't have it, I will. If I have it.
The cherry blossoms
If I
were
don't,
pretty.
then,
They were.
S-O. That is not what I did.
The cherry blossoms were pretty.
Unfortunately,
I'm feeling quite witty. And they are quite red, and now I am dead, and now my life is real crappy. So. There's my limerick about cherry blossoms.
Well, it wasn't expressly about the cherry blossoms so much, but I
Right.
do remember the first couplet, "The wonderful colors of spring." The various colors of spring. They are such a wonderful thing. They stick in the eye as the seasons go by, such a marvelous and colorful fling.
Nice. Very good and very pretentious, just as poetry should be. So good job.
Why are you down on poetry? We had a guest host on poetry. For more on that, please listen to episode
22. Wait. Yes, 22. Okay.
But anyway, yeah, so I came up with that limerick. I was actually pretty impressed.
It's
the
all
syllable
right.
count is almost...
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, it's not...
It's better than
it's
I would
not
do. Like, I might...
Great.
Good job.
It's not great, but the syllable count is almost identical enough that it worked.
Well, there you go.
So yeah, it was really fun, and they were really pretty. Like I would show you pictures, but we don't have video, and Donald hasn't even seen them yet. So
I'll take your word for it that they're quite good. So.
It was really cool. No, the park had so many trees, and they were all in full like pink blossom, and that pink color is such a nice. It's rare because literally the blossoms last like only 2 weeks at most.
Nice. It definitely is.
Wind, knock them over, and then the thing that's cool about the trees themselves is that those blossoms are simply stage 1, because the rest of the year that they have leaves, they're very nice green leaves that follow the pink buds.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. And the people of Japan are absolutely in love with those. And they have these things called hanami. Hana is in Japanese means flower.
Right.
So hanami is like this flower viewing party, and they'll go to local parks where they have lots of sakura trees and stuff and have picnics and whatnot while the pink buds are in the air. And it's really, really cool. I was invited to go to a couple this year. I was not able to take them up on the opportunity, and that's why I went on the walk to go see. And I've got several good pictures in my phone of blossoming cherry trees. It was really neat.
Oh,
but
I'll be happy to see them.
That has nothing to do with. Well, I mean, the poem that came from that is written.
I was gonna say, you're not God. You didn't writ those cherry blossoms.
I did not writ the cherry blossoms. No. The other thing that I've been working on lately, I've been doing translating work.
Yes.
I had an opportunity to try playing the traditional Japanese instrument called the shamisen recently.
Never heard of it.
The shamisen is a really cool instrument that's played along with a lot of like theater type things and Japanese folk tale type stuffs. It's a 3-stringed instrument that is plucked with this special tool called a bachi, and it has a very iconic sound that most people in Japan are familiar with.
I'm assuming if I heard it, I'd be like, oh, I know that.
Ironically, I got to play a song called... I'm pretty sure you would if you've seen like any form of media that has Japanese influence. But that said, one of the most famous songs, and it's awfully topical because of the season, I got to play a song called Sakura.
Nice.
Which Sakura is cherry blossom. But anyway, while I was there, I was given this packet of information about the thing, and I've been going through it and trying to translate, to share with people back home about what I did and more about the shamisen and whatnot. So obviously that qualifies as well.
Right.
Other various translation type stuffs at the office have been going on in my mind as well.
Right.
I am eagerly churning my mind to continue with this mythical collaboration we keep, mythologizing, but never actually talking about, that we both have some authorship over. Unfortunately, I don't have it in my hands yet because I'm still waiting on
I will try and bug him
to
be like, please.
If you're listening to the podcast, buddy, you know where to send it. Thanks.
I'm actually going to see him because we're going to see, just before Denver StarFest, we got tickets to see Avengers Endgame. So we're going to see that together, and I'll do my best to be like, hey, have you sent it over? And he'll be like, no. I'm like, why haven't you? So...
Well, don't be an a-hole about it. Anyway, so yeah, I'm doing that. Also, I always have this, when I have free moments and I'm just standing there thinking, I will always come up with like these great scenes or dialogues between characters, but have absolutely no payoff because I never get them down and consequently forget them all.
Well, at least you got the ideas in your head.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm not thinking, it's just that I'm not writing.
Well, get on it!
Speaking of writing...
Well, I was going to say, speaking of not writing... Alright, so this week we are talking about the ancillary stuff. I can't pronounce this word, it's hard for me.
The word is ancillary.
Ancillary.
Basically, Basically, it means any supplements.
Yes.
So, like, this is material that is tangentially related, but it's not within your main story. Obviously, we talked about prologues. We talked about interludes. This is stuff that, you're talking, like, the doorstop size encyclopedias.
The special edition versions of certain fantasy books that have, like, the exclusive, forwards and afterwards, or, like, the information about the world, and...
Sure, exactly. I mean, you've got maps and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and atlases and whatnot. All of those things are ancillary. All of them provide additional information, extra content that hardest of core fans will appreciate
Right.
and buy. Like, one thing that surprised me when I was home, not last time, but a couple of times ago, I found out that my brother has the encyclopedia for the Song of Fire and Ice.
Nice.
I didn't even know he was into that at all.
Well,
but he's got the encyclopedia for
maybe
it.
as soon as Game of Thrones came out, he was like, I'm interested in this. So,
Well, I mean, as far as I know, it's an intriguing story. Not that I've ever read it or seen it.
people are really excited about this final season coming
Although,
out.
as we're recording, Game of Thrones Season 8 are coming out. Yeah, so this is...
And again, by the time
anyway,
this episode comes out, it will have already come out.
it will have already come out, right. But anyway, ancillary stuff in general, if you're taking it from one medium that of the book or the story to another, it qualifies as ancillary.
Yes.
So if you're making it a play, if you are making it an audio drama, if you're adapting it for TV, if you're turning it into artwork, a comic book, whatever. I mean, we'll talk about a couple of things in minor detail as well. There's just a lot of stuff here.
Right.
And, as much fun as it would be to exhaustively list all of these
Forwards,
things,
afterwards, audio dramas,
we'll leave-
adaptations, comic books, art, ballroom dancing, and origami.
Well, I don't know how much ballroom dancing would apply. That's why.
Oh, but you're right, origami, though, absolutely.
Yeah. Origami you could have a shape that is iconic.
Cut
here,
this
then
out of the
you
book
make it-
and then fold it this way.
That's not what I meant. Anyway. No, origami you typically take like blank paper and fold it into a shape. That's not like cutting it
Then
from the book itself.
the book is happy enough to provide a blank page for your origami.
Remember when we were talking about page count? Yeah, we aren't counting those blank pages. If you need to rip it out and use it,
50 pages of this book is just blank to add to the origami.
oh jeez. But anyway, because we are talking about this ancillary stuff.
By the way, guys, listeners, we were referencing Ratchet and Clank. I wasn't trying to make an original joke. In case someone's like, "Oh, actually, that's from Ratchet and Clank, you thief!" You thief, and I'm like,
idea thief. We definitely are. But anyway,
I mean, we rip off stuff
this
all the
also
time.
includes
It's literally a segment of the show.
AKA fanfics as well, short stories, forwards, afterwards, stuff that's companion to the text but not essential to the book.
Right.
But with all of this, there's rule number one.
Yes.
Like literally, if you open the rule book that has yet to be written, maybe I should write it.
Maybe that'd be an ancillary
rule
material.
number one of it would be for what story? I don't know.
The Book of Life, not the movie, not the animated movie.
Anyway, if you're a published creator, don't you mean the Game of Life? Oh, it's a fun board game.
Yeah, but there's also a movie called The Book
games
of Life.
too. Why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I think about that? Video games. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, the video game adaptations of your book. Those common things.
Or
Well, I guess,
like
there's
when
the
you're
Tom
making
Clancy video games.
you're making Bionicle Park Tycoon, or making an RTS based off of your book, Megazoic.
I would love to make an RTS. I keep trying, but it's difficult.
You keep planning, that's for sure. That's all ancillary stuff. Anyways, if you are a published creator, and you open the rule book, the first rule that's there: once it's out of your hands, anyone will twist, contort, turn it however they wish.
Yes.
Be prepared to not always like their choices.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Like H.P. Lovecraft, when he did his Lovecraft's lore with all the Cthulhu and stuff, he published it deliberately as public domain because he encouraged other people to make their own stories in the canon of Cthulhu mythos, which I think is kind of cool. He's encouraging that. So
It's he's encouraging it. That's really a neat thing for an author.
Yeah,
to
so
do.
I could write a story
can't
about
think of
Cthulhu right now and get it published. So
Yep. I can't think of two. Well, and, that's before we talk about freelancing.
Right.
So, like, Star Trek, Star Wars are both notorious
well,
for
like
this.
also like all the fan fiction, yeah, just that you don't plan
Well,
on making money on, but yeah.
And obviously, I've said, I think I've even said on this podcast before that comic books are just a gigantic orgy of fan fiction,
They
right?
certainly are, aren't they?
Because you get this creator telling the story they want to tell with this character. And if they get that opportunity, that's what they're going to do.
Right.
I mean, if it weren't published officially by the company, it would be considered fan fiction.
Yes.
So,
Well, as well as all the other authors, comic book writers.
But
who
yeah, I mean,
make their own characters, but yeah.
freelancing stuff, obviously, it's ancillary to a certain canon.
But this is more like
But
the stuff that like is written by the author himself. That's like other things, I think. So.
Sure. Well, and that's what I was about to tie it into the fact
Right.
that this is more about the story that you have made, and it's additional to that story.
Right.
And that's why we're not going too in depth on fan fiction here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and we want to do an episode on fan fiction
Someday.
So we keep talking about it. But anyway, there are various types of this. Also, for those of you who are up on, the real, quote-unquote, real reason the internet exists, you're probably aware of a certain rule. I will not cite it for those who are not, old enough to consume these things, but that might...
Oh, you're talking about Rule 34. Yes.
Dang it!
Google it,
I was trying
listeners.
not to do that. Don't Google it if you're underage.
Okay, fine. Well, now they want to
Although,
Google it, so I'll just tell them. The rule is that if there's anything, there must be porn of it.
There is a companion rule to that Rule 35. If it does not exist, it will be created.
There you go, listeners.
And also, there's another rule in that same vein that there is probably an opposite gender version of your character out
Oh,
there
yeah, I've heard that
somewhere.
one. That's a good one.
I don't remember what rule it is, but it doesn't matter. These
Moving
are
on.
not rules you should be aware of. That's why I was trying not to say the number, but thanks anyway,
No
Donald.
problem. Glad to help. Ha
Glad to help him do what?
I
Anyway,
don't know. I'm that.
this is why I said contort and turn it however they
Yeah,
wish.
okay, that makes sense.
And you may not always like their choices.
Right.
However, there are various kinds of ancillary material, main kinds of ancillary material, including the encyclopedia, perfect for all your info dumping needs.
Isn't it just?
But seriously, it's info dumping.
It is,
so
but that's
get
the
it
point,
out of your
so-
story. Get it out of your story. It doesn't belong in the main narrative.
Put it
right?
in the ancillary material, yeah.
That's why we're talking about it here.
Exactly.
A rule of thumb for encyclopedias, again going back to how people will contort things however they want.
Right.
If you want it explicitly stated, you should do it.
Yes.
You should state it so it's out there and theoretically published as well.
Right.
That's why J.K. Rowling always keeps chiming in on all these speculation things. from Potter lore
Actually,
and
in
stuff like
Hogwarts, they didn't have toilets or whatever it is she said. That was. Did you hear about this one?
But I believe that things like that have happened.
It was
But, I
like
mean,
they
that's
didn't
the
have
thing.
toilets for like up till like a couple decades ago, and they just magically
Oh,
teleported
right.
their
And they
waste.
teleported it out. Yeah,
And I'm like,
I do.
and
remember
I'm like,
reading that.
JK, jeez.
JK, man, just JK. It's just a joke,
Oh
right?
yeah, but
No,
I
anyway.
was just like, God, there are some things that we don't need to know. Like I've got.
But because of the curious minds of various fans that are passionate in various levels, unless you say it, they will assume or surmise anything they want to.
Right. Well, like, okay, so here's
And
something.
this is why-
This might be a little adult, but I'm not going to go into graphic detail here. But here's a question that I actually have received about my book Megazoic several times. Okay. So, I have mentioned that they reproduce through the labs. I mentioned this actually in a previous episode before, where we were talking about prologues. So,
Right. Oh, wow, that's such a rough one. Okay.
So because there's so many different species, the dinosaurs, what they do is that each dinosaur is required by law for one time in their life to donate some of their blood to a lab, and they got like a genetic pool of all the DNA of each dinosaur, and they get enough of each species so that all the characters of the same species aren't exact clones of each other. They're all mixed up, you know.
Well, unless you're a Triassic dinosaur, in which case they say, screw you!
You won't get over those Triassic dinosaurs. That's fine.
I will never get over the Triassic.
Even though I've told you before that a lot of the Triassic dinosaurs survived into Jurassic times, and therefore... Anyways, enough about that. A couple can be of any two species, and then if they want a child, they go to the labs, they pay them to genetically create the kid, and then they get the egg of the kid, then they raise it there. However, a question I have received: do the dinosaur couples, even once different species, have sex? Purely for pleasure.
Well, I mean, if such a means existed...
And the answer is yes, by the way. They can.
Oh. Well, I mean, I was going to say, if their bodies are compatible...
And a lot of times they are.
If their anatomies are compatible, and theoretically they should be able
Anyways, not to get into too graphic of a detail, but basically, if anyone cares, yes. The answer is yes, assuming that they're compatible. And anyway, so
now all we need is a gigantic public forum that includes all these things where you can chime in, and people have said, no, this is not what I meant.
Anyways, now I've opened up the gates to Rule 34 of Megazoic, so...
All I gotta say is, what do you think they do with Pokemon? Moving on.
I think the better question is, what don't they do with Pokemon?
True as that may be.
Anyways.
All right, so it is a ton of work to do an encyclopedia.
Yes.
It is a ton of work, because, like, where do you stop?
Right.
How much do you include? The slog itself may be fun for you. Writing alternate histories, for example.
Right.
We mentioned a couple episodes ago our mutual online friend who does these alternate history type things.
Yes.
But giving up halfway doesn't do anyone much service.
No, exactly. Like, I've definitely tried...
So maybe hold off on tackling this project...
Yeah, like...
Unless you couldn't explain the story without one.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And even then,
yeah.
This is supplementary material, right?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, no, like, I've definitely tried to, like... I want to write a encyclopedia about Megazoic that, like, explains all the different places of, like, the factions, their leaders, like, the real details. Like, I explain a little bit of it in the books, obviously. But, like, the real details about it. Like, the rest of the world, the more details, the old civilization, all this stuff.
And you have that information stored in your head somewhere,
yes.
So it'd be cool to get it out.
Yeah, but if I do it, I need to finish it, basically. Or, I don't know.
Exactly. Like, you shouldn't do it half... You shouldn't do it... pardon the terminology, you shouldn't do it half-assed. If it's something you want to do, you do it. If it's something that you aren't going to commit to doing, don't do it. Like, obviously, it's something you need to know.
Right.
We've talked about that before.
Yes.
But if it's something you want to share, you need to commit to doing the thing full hog and get it done.
Right.
These can be real fun to add extra meat to your stories. If you like having that extra meat there.
Right.
Sorry, I'm stealing.
That's okay. It's a good analogy. I invite you to use it.
Yes. And something else that might be helpful is, getting help.
Possibly.
It is a big project.
I mean, yeah.
It is a big project. That said, if you are the creator, you have creative control.
Yes, you do.
If it's an encyclopedia about your story, and you're not talking co-author in this situation, you're talking like you're asking a friend to help you compile this because you want to get it done and it's a lot harder to do by yourself.
Right.
They have to answer to you.
Yes.
But if they're willing to help you, it does make it a little bit easier.
Right.
It's why Wikipedia and all those online sites are able to be edited by anyone.
Right.
Because that means that somebody who actually cares about the material will do it justice.
Yes.
Whether it's their own or not.
Right.
And that way you can make sure it's all factual, valid, without having problems there.
Right.
So, I mean, encyclopedias are more trouble than they're worth, but they can be very rewarding if you do it.
Yeah, I think they're fun.
I think.
Yeah. All right.
Anything you choose to do after you've finished the story is your business. Take
Yeah.
it or leave it.
Yes.
But it all qualifies as ancillary, whether it's the same medium or even a different one. We
Right.
talked about going to video games, artwork, that kind of thing. That's all ancillary stuff. If you do it, it's all ancillary stuff.
Yeah,
If somebody else
basically.
does it, it's all ancillary stuff.
Yeah. Okay, well, that sounds good. Well, so I guess now we're talking about forewords and afterwards, right? And, like, I like what one of the notes you have here. Forewords. Apologize in advance? Like, yeah. Sorry, guys, but I'm writing this book anyways, and I got it published against all of your will.
I'm really sorry. None of you guys asked for this book, but I'm doing it anyway. Please read it.
Or don't, It's up to you.
Or don't. But also, it's a great place to thank all your loved ones for
like
their
your
support
dedication.
and
But
putting
that's
up
like
with
that's
you during this time.
right. I mean,
That's pretty standard fare. I do want to mention though. I didn't put the term, and you just said the dedication thing. That's kind of what this is.
yeah, kind of.
But forewords. One way that you could use them to relate them to the story is, if you wanted to, you could talk a little bit about the insight. Where did the idea come from? When did you start writing it? That kind of a thing. You could use the foreword for that.
Right.
You can also... Are we good
A
to
lot
move
of
on
times-
before I just do the segue?
Yeah. What were
I
you
was
saying?
going to do... You can also use the afterword for that.
Right. Well, one other thing I was going to say about forewords was that
Sorry,
a lot of
go ahead.
times they're written by a different person. Like, I see that a lot for books. They're like, this book, and it says
Yeah, that's true.
forward by whoever, so...
Yeah, that's true.
And a lot of times it's like, if it's like for a classic, and they're like, this is when I first discovered this book, what the foreword is, right? Or
Yeah, that's true. Or
like-
somebody, especially if it's something like translated by somebody,
Right,
the
right.
translator will talk about how I discovered this book and it was lovely, so I just needed to make sure it was in my native language kind of a thing.
like Beowulf.
But yeah, usually forewords are in scholarly texts. They talk about the circumstances surrounding when this guy wrote the thing, and it's a very analytical source of information about the motivations for writing. They do this a lot with music as well. I really appreciate that detail as a music fan, and I'm sure
Well, yeah,
that
of
there are
course.
quite a few people that are interested in this kind of thing, scholarly researcher types and whatnot.
Yeah.
But if you have it, if you're writing it yourself,
Right.
then it's probably mostly just a dedication kind of a thing.
Of course.
So thanks for bringing that up. I did put that down on this
Yeah, no
list.
problem.
Anyway, if you want to do more about the why I wrote this kind of a thing,
Yeah.
generally authors will do that in an afterword,
Right.
which is generally them.
Right. Okay.
And similar to apologizing in advance, the afterword, I kind of think, well, it's congratulating the readers for actually making it.
Yep.
You didn't put the book down, thank you.
Here's a prize.
Here's
Here's a prize.
your
This
sticker,
origami thing of paper for
eternal
you.
gratitude. Eternal gratitude. You can use the next 50 pages to make shapes.
Yeah, send me a swan that you've made out of my book, please. Oh my
This is
God.
usually home to fun anecdotes about the process or your inspiration.
Yeah.
One author in particular I read quite a lot, Dean Koontz,
Yes.
is amazing at making these enjoyable because he puts in his sense of humor into these afterwards. You get to learn more about the writer than the story, but
Right.
he's talking about the process of creating the story too. So it does have some relation. Admittedly, this is simply something that you include in the cover anyway for fun.
Right. Well, another example, I think, for like something to put after the story. A lot of people have suggested this for my book, and I think I'll probably do it once like a bigger publisher gets a hold of it. A lot of people have suggested that I have like a species list at the end. That's like that's like to describe them for people, that just to give people a reminder. Like, because like I described them a little in their first introduction. Of course, I always say like throughout, this one's the little one, this one's the big one, this one's the long neck one, this one's the spiky one. But like for people
But
who
you
want
don't put all of that detail in every time.
right, so if people want like a hard and fast description, like they want it like in the back, and I'm like, that's probably a good idea. I haven't done it yet because I've been lazy.
Well, and and because you're self-publishing, so it costs more money.
Right,
But,
exactly.
the other thing that I've desired for a long time, and I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about as soon before I even say it now, is I really want a size comparison chart.
Yeah, well, a lot of people want that too. I probably, for all these, I'd have the picture that my illustrator Natasha had, but then I'd add like a little stick figure by it. That's like, or like, it shows like the size compared to a normal human. So,
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe.
Before we get into fanfics, because I want to probably rant just a little bit more about that than the others.
Go ahead.
Let's go ahead and talk. Well,
eventually.
Before I get there, some other things that just some quick one-liners about these, I guess. What anything you want to add about, say, audio dramas?
There can have fun versions of them. Like they can make fun to like do something new with it, but be careful because if you guys, as you guys might know of history, Orson Welles did. I think it was Orson Welles did War of the Worlds and the book about the aliens invading, but he did the audio drama as if it was a news story that was unfolding right then, and there was a mass panic from people who thought it was real.
That's true.
But that's a fun way to do it.
Back then,
yeah.
And back then too, I seem to remember that was like the golden age of radio serials.
Yeah, I think it was in like the 30s or the 40s. Like
so,
it was before
like
TV.
When the shadow was still on the airwaves and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's one of those things that audio dramas are quite nice because there can be multiple versions of literally the same thing, even if you want, because it's theoretically different casts. I also, by the way, when I say audio dramas, I'm also including audio books, which I realize aren't quite the same thing.
Yeah.
But, audio dramas are short version, are short, like little jaunts, short tales. So like Rhea, for example.
Oh my God, you won't let that go.
Well, I'm bringing it up because it is a good example for this.
I suppose.
Like, you have this audio drama. You add special effects and character, actors doing recorded lines and stuff like that, and you can make a story that's consumable only by listening, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a really neat thing. As I said, I'm including audiobooks, but obviously they're somewhat separate as well.
Right.
If you do it yourself, it's a labor of love. You've got to want to do it. You need to be good at manipulating your voice to do a lot of things. One of the things that I worry about, and this is me, and I know that a lot of people have this opinion too. It's hard to do voices of the opposite gender, but for some reason, it's easier for women to act more convincingly as a boy than it is for a man to act.
That Adam's apple really gets in the way. It's easier to fake an Adam's apple than fake not having one.
Well, I suppose that's true. But anyway, having manipulability in your voice, also not being afraid to use sound effects or affecting your recording itself to change that. That's something that you could do if you just take the time to learn about the technology. Like Audacity, you can do quite a few of those things as well.
Right.
So it's fun. You should try it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not saying you have to complete even the story, but you should at least try it and see what it's like, because it will help you appreciate what all of these people do when they're recording audiobooks for a living, and it's really cool. Like I kind of think it would be a neat career if I didn't have like a bunch of other things on the waiting list.
Again, you'd like to multiply yourself so you can cover everything you'd want to do.
Exactly. If I had a nickel for every time I wish I had a clone, I would be a millionaire, and I could probably just make a dang cloning machine. But anyway, adaptations. Again, any other medium.
The movie of the book.
The movie of the book. The video game of the book. If you want to make
the video
a
game
play
of the
out
movie.
of something.
The movie of the video game. Both of those are usually terrible.
Art from the film, inspired by the comic book, which actually was birthed from a radio serial. I mean, all of these things are adaptations, right?
Yeah.
So it could be artwork. It could be audio something. It could be game something. It could be a different screen. So film to small screen to a script format, whatever it is. There are a bunch of different ways. It could be changing languages. It could be translating a work.
Right, exactly.
Adaptations. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff there. If you make it that big, that's really freaking cool.
Might as well go for it. And speaking of going it, should we just let you rant on at this episode that's going way longer than I thought it would?
Before I get into my rant, though, I have one other thing to do.
All right.
And that is short stories. Why am I not doing this separately? Because short stories, I'm referring to ones written by the same author.
And usually taking
The
place in
little
the same
jaunts.
universe within.
Usually take place in the same... Like, literally, it could fill a gap of time you had in the story for various reasons just because you didn't want to clog down your narrative pace.
But it's
whatever.
somehow
But,
different
like,
from an interlude, and for more on that, no.
Clog down? Clog down is not a thing. Clog up. Anyway, sorry.
Did I say
but
that,
yeah,
or did
short
you say
stories-
that?
No, I did.
Okay, good, because I could have believed that I said that.
Anyway, short stories. I mean, it basically is an interlude being pulled out.
Right.
Is what it is.
Right.
Especially because it's going to be about the same length as a regular chapter, probably a little bit longer depending on the story itself. And they're fun. They're ways to explore the characters. Like, I tend to do this even before I finish the work itself. I'll tend to like just pull them in, put them into a room, and have them react to a situation that's presented to them.
Right.
Because it helps me get into the character's head a little bit better. It helps me understand their, motivations,
Right.
their emotional responses,
Yeah.
which helps me write them better.
Of course.
And so maybe it's this thing that you want to do that has no bearing on the story you're trying to tell.
Right.
Again, indulging your tangents, but instead of keeping it within the cover that you're, putting in one package, you're separating it.
Right.
So I do like those. Along with short stories, that's a place where you can experiment with genre
Yes.
a lot.
That's
So,
kind of
like-
a fun thing to do. Like, if your story's not, like,
That's kind of
have a certain
so
tone.
you put these people into a noir detective thing just for the fun of it, you
right.
know?
Or, like,
Just
this one's a horror
because.
thing, so...
Right, and to see maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but
Yeah.
you get to try that because it's not changing tones, changing styles right in the middle of your main story, right?
Right, exactly.
That kind of thing. Also, comedies in that vein as well, going from tragedy, drama to comedy. Something about comedies, I think we mentioned before, script writing versus prose writing.
Yes.
I tend to like comedies that are done in script format because, like, you expect
It's easier for the beat of the story, like, I think. Like,
it's far easier for it to be the story. Plus, it's a lot easier to envision this being read out at like across a table,
Right.
as kind of a fun thing.
Absolutely,
rather
yeah.
than, oh, it's a book, which means you have to somehow let the prose not take over the jokes.
right. Well, that's why a lot of times when there's
So,
humor in my book, it's purely through dialogue, so... Like...
Sure.
Because that's... Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yes, fanfics.
and you've given me permission to rant, so I'm gonna step up on my
Oh,
soapbox.
God. You've already been talking for quite a lot in this episode. But let's have you talk for a little bit more.
Well, I mean, if you have anything to add, please let me know.
Nah, it's fine. Go ahead.
So mature. Fanfics. There are two main branches of the idea of fan fiction. The first is taking an existing concept, an existing character from that concept, and using it to tell a story you want to tell.
Right.
So in my, I'm gonna use Power Rangers, near and dear to my heart.
Of
as an
course.
example. Of course. So this one kind of fanfic is represented by a story I did called Three Way, which used the same characters from the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series.
Right.
Those 6 Rangers I used.
Right.
That's this kind of fanfic. You're taking a character that's already established and doing what you want with it.
Right,
You
exactly.
can insert your own characters
Yes.
to interact with
The
these people
OCs.
too. That's the same type of fanfic.
Yeah.
The other kind of fanfic is using the framework of something,
Yeah.
but using your own characters and coming up with your own story. Again,
Right.
using Power Rangers. These are my original teams. They don't have any connection to the characters that have come before, but the framework is based on Power Rangers.
Right.
Some shows, some concepts lend themselves to this, others don't.
Right, exactly.
Power Rangers is pretty good because you just get some source of power and you have your own arsenal and you have your own villains to fight and good always triumphs over evil, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's also like with
So it's really easy.
Yeah.
There are some things...
Well, like with
there are some
Bionicle,
things
it's
that don't
easy to
lend
do
themselves
fanfics for that too and come up with your own characters. Like, come up with a Toa, come up with a mask, come up with a weapon, come up with an element, boom!
Exactly. Boom, you got your story. Well,
Yep.
I don't know how many more elements you need to come up with because they did a pretty.
They did have a
time
set
on it.
list, but you know, on fan creation, you could come up with whatever. So
But that's the thing. It's fan creation.
yeah,
And these are ancillary.
yes.
However, in the terminology itself, and I said earlier, comic books are a gigantic orgy of fan
Well, of course.
This explicitly means that it is a fan derivative work.
Yes.
These are not you. They may be good enough to be ancillary to you. Might decide that you like what this person did. You may decide you absolutely freaking hate it. But this is not your work.
Right.
Unless you're going from another concept.
Yes.
Or you're borrowing a character.
Yes.
So, but I wanted to talk about more of this because it could be ancillary and it's near and dear to my heart.
Maybe
if you have a fan base.
Maybe the creator really is proud of a certain type of fan fiction. He actually puts it in an edition of the book at the beginning or something, or at the end.
Sure, like for more on this, please see this person's story, and you can find it here.
Right, exactly.
Which is really freaking
but like a
really freaking
segment
cool.
of it, yeah, and then have the link to the full thing or something, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of reductive to say, but if you're not a fan of your own work, why are you doing it?
For the money, I guess. Sometimes people do stories just for the money. Like Charles Dickens only wrote A Christmas Carol for the money, apparently, and it ended up being his most famous story. So,
which, hey, it was a good story. But, you know, you can be a fan of other people using your work too. You don't have to be.
Yeah, of course.
But you can be.
But if sometimes it's not allowed though for you to look at your own fanfics. I'm assuming, like, especially while you're writing the story.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're not done writing the story, then
Right.
you probably shouldn't look at fanfics because that's going to possibly influence what you're
Yeah,
doing.
but I've finished writing the Megazoic series. Not all the books are out yet, and of course, if I ever get like a bigger publisher, they'll probably want to publish them all the time anyway. So, but for now, I could, if it ever comes to a point where people are writing Megazoic fanfiction, I could read it
if
now.
you had people. If you had people writing it, which if you have a fan base passionate enough to write their own fiction about your story, you're really damn good at your task for one thing, and for another thing, it really helps to encourage them. Opposed to simply bashing their efforts.
You know my old Megazoic, which had the thing of Rhea that you love so much. It had a lot of fan fiction from you and from our New Zealand friend. So
that is true.
So, I'm damn good based on your own words. Nah.
I never deny that.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're not as successful, perhaps, but you are damn good.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, so it really
not
helps.
successful, but damn good. That's going to be on my gravestone.
You just needed to be more famous.
Yeah, my epitaph is like, yeah, he wasn't successful, but he was damn good anyways. Okay. Anyways,
but if you're going to have fans that want to contribute their own ideas to the canon, it helps to encourage them.
Yeah.
Keep giving them the opportunity to write. You might not agree with everything, but that doesn't mean you should just squash them trying.
Well, of course. Yeah.
Even if, well, on page 96, I clearly meant, when she said we're not getting together, I meant ever, guys. Stop shipping them, please.
You know what? I encourage people to ship the weirdest characters together. Ship Zach, my character Zach, and his bazooka. I don't care. I mean, actually, that's probably halfway canon, honestly.
I was about to say. Yeah, I mean, if it's something like that, yes, obviously it's not your intent, but you're not in charge of writing that story.
Absolutely.
At that point, if you want to say it, as we said with the encyclopedia, if you want to say it, then you need to say it.
Yes.
Otherwise, they have just as much license with it as you do. It's their ideas. It's their personal expression. I'm stepping down off my soapbox.
Okay, good job, because we are 50 minutes into this episode that we thought would be by far the shortest. So it's amazing how plans change when reality happens.
Well, I mean, I found out that there is more worth saying about all these various things.
Well, yeah, I guess not nothing wrong with that, I guess. Anyway, so are we done though
And
with
consider
ancillary?
that there's probably other things that we could have talked about. We're skipping that, of course, but
Yes.
ancillary material is very broad. If you have any,
Speaking of ancillary material, let's talk about how to get in contact with us.
well, I was gonna go ahead and
Oh.
say, because speaking of fans,
That's a better
normally,
segue.
Normally we read. You're welcome. Normally we'd read fan mail on the air. If it's requested by the person sending it in, we did not have any that wanted us to share that with them this time. Thanks for sending those in.
Yes.
We hope you liked the responses, and please keep listening to the show.
Yes.
Oh, and while we're at it, and we have not mentioned this ever on the other episodes
Oh.
thus far, please rate, review, and all that stuff.
I think we've said that
It
once
really
or twice,
helps the
but yes,
podcast.
please do. We've got several ratings on iTunes, but we need more.
Well,
we're greedy.
No. What I'm saying is, in this set, we haven't said it.
In this set, yes.
No. Anyway, so we really do appreciate you sending in the feedback. It's so nice to interact with you guys, and we'd like to do that more. So please, if you have questions, if you'd like us to share them on the air, we will totally do that.
Will do.
So please let us know.
Very excited.
Oh, and if you want us to share things on the air and you want to send those to us, how do you do that?
Oh, well, you contact us at mattd with 2 T's at matthewdonaldcreator.com for any general questions to either co-host. Please specify
It's
which
spelled
one.
in the description. It's spelled in the description, so if you're having trouble, please just look at that.
Yes. If you want to follow me personally, you follow me at Matthew Donald Creator on Facebook, at Matthew Donald 64 on Twitter, and Matthew Donald 64 on Instagram. Why 64? Because I'm 64 pounds. I'm 6'2", and I'm 64 pounds. I am really
That is...
dangerously skinny, David. Feed me.
Well, I was thinking about getting my lunch started here, but I guess
Give me some of it. I'm so hungry.
Yeah. So absolutely, if you've got questions for us, please do send those in. We'd love to hear from you more.
Yes.
If you've got episode ideas, we encourage that as well.
Yes.
We've talked a lot about ancillary material, so we're going to sign off for this week. But until next time,
Keep writing.
keep writing. I'm Matt David.
I'm Matt Donald.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya. Bye.
The Ridway.